In a couple of months, the 3DS turns 15 years old. Yeah, I remember when I got this thing in Christmas of 2011. But regardless of that, this is an incredible console, full of so many amazing games that still hold up really well today. And in this video, we're going to take a look back on some of the best 3DS games, and take a deep dive into what makes them so great. So, without further ado, my name is Mariomikester, and this is a fun look back at the 3DS. Initially released on April 18th, 2013 in Japan, and later localized and released worldwide on June 6, 2014, Tomodachi Life is a game all about interacting with and watching your Miis live out their day-to-day lives on your island. Interestingly enough though, Tomodachi Life on the 3DS isn't actually the first Tomodachi game Nintendo has made. In 2008, a game called Tomodachi Collection was released for the DS exclusively in Japan. This game plays almost identically to its 3DS counterpart, and set the groundwork for what Tomodachi Life would eventually be. I'm honestly really surprised that this game was never released outside of Japan. Returning back to Tomodachi Life though, this game was also never meant to release outside of Japan, hence the over a year-long gap between its Japanese and worldwide release. Once they did decide to localize the game and release it worldwide though, the team really struggled with making things like the dialogue feel natural and relevant to players around the world. It wasn't just a simple matter of translating the Japanese into other languages. There are tons of changes across multiple different regions and languages in order to make the game appeal to as many people as possible. One of the most notorious examples of the changes Tomodachi Life received across releases can be seen in the North American release of the game, where the minigame Sumo Wrestling was reskinned and changed to football to appeal to Western audiences. Upon opening the game for the first time, you're met with a completely empty island, and a text box reading, "Here sits a little island in the middle of the ocean. This place is all yours, it just needs a name." After naming your island, you're then prompted to make a Mii lookalike of yourself, who will start their new life here as the first official islander. This is where the real fun starts. The heart of Tomodachi Life is without a doubt the Miis you populate the island with. In this Mii Maker, not only can you obviously create the Mii you want to add to your island, but you also get to name them, give them the nickname that they'll be referred to by, give them their own voice, and even give them an entire personality that will reflect how they act. There is so much that goes into adding just one Mii to your island, and it really makes each one feel unique. You have so much freedom with things like how your Mii's voice will sound. I remember I used to just mess around with the voice settings and see how goofy I could make some of my Mii's sound. The personality settings allow you to give your Mii genuine characteristics, and heavily affects who they get along with, how they talk, how they move around, and even what type of clothing they like. And after making your first Mii, you finally get access to the central hub of the game, the apartment building. At first, this place is practically empty, only featuring your lookalike Mii. But as time goes on and you add more and more Miis to your island, this place starts to look a lot more lively, and eventually even gets more floors added to it if you add enough Miis. And I mean, on the topic of adding Miis to your island, one of the greatest things about Tomodachi Life was that you didn't have to manually design every one yourself. By going online, you can find QR codes of specific Miis people have made and add them to your island. And once you added these Miis, you still got to name them, give them a voice, and add their personality. You could add Miis of characters like Walter White, Peter Griffin, and even Freddy Fazbear, and give them the proper voice and personality that reflects them, and have them just live on your island. It is so fun to check on these Miis and see what they're up to. Speaking of checking up on your Miis though, I absolutely love how much interaction and charm there is here. You see, the main gameplay loop of Tomodachi Life is all about solving Mii's problems and building their relationships with other Miis on the island. When you visit a Mii's apartment, the bottom screen of your 3DS will display, well, the Mii in their apartment, but the top screen on the other hand holds a bunch of important information about your Mii. You have their happiness level that goes up when you solve a problem they have or give them something they like, and goes down if you give them a food or clothing item they dislike. You have a tab on the left chronicling what foods they like that you find out randomly by just feeding them things. You have their stomach, which shows you how hungry they are. You have two tabs which show you who their best friend and partner is. And finally, in the bottom right, you have 8 squares that contain the level up gifts you've given your Mii. There is so much fun to be had in just this aspect of the game alone. Upon visiting a Mii, they'll usually have a problem they want you to solve. These problems range from actual problems like being hungry or needing help finding something they lost, to looking inside their head to see what they're thinking about. I really like how sometimes when you tap on a Mii's apartment to go visit them, there's a chance that they'll have the hiccups, and you entering their apartment scared them so much that you
scared the hiccups right out of me.
The game is full of little interactions like this that just give it so much life. And I mean, I can't talk about how much charm and life this game has without mentioning the food reactions Mii's have. You see, as I briefly mentioned before, Mii's are sometimes hungry and you obviously have to feed them. Usually when you feed a Mii something, they'll like it. But as your Mii tries more and more food, well, eventually this is bound to happen. This happens when a Mii is given their super all-time favorite food. I remember I was absolutely shocked when this happened for the first time, but not nearly as shocked as when I saw this for the first time. I'm not even joking when I tell you I thought my Mii died when I fed them something they hated for the first time. I really appreciate just how much went into making this game as goofy and silly as possible. And food isn't the only thing you can give your Mii. You can also give them clothes to wear that they may like or dislike, interiors for their apartments that you can actually tour in first person, and gifts like a sewing machine that they'll use to sew you an outfit, and even a Wii U that they'll set up in their apartment and play sometimes. There are so many unique things that you can give your Miis in this game that you could just sit there for hours making your Miis in their apartments look as cool as possible. And this core gameplay focus on decorating things and interacting with your islanders on a day-to-day basis has led a lot of people over the years to really notice the similarities between this game and the Animal Crossing games. I mean, when you really think about it, how different are they at a first glance? They both focus on completing tasks, talking with your residents, making things look nice, and don't really have an end goal in mind to them. But when you really dive deep into Tomodachi Life, there is so much that differentiates the two. Sure, their gameplay loops are pretty similar, and that is a perfectly fine thing to criticize, but Tomodachi Life not only has such a strong focus on building friendships and even romantic relationships between your Miis, something Animal Crossing doesn't have, Tomodachi Life is also all about adding literally anybody, whether it be a family member, friend, or character to your island, and trying your best to replicate them through the personality and voice options, clothing they wear, apartment interior they have, and so much more. While Animal Crossing has a focus on its set group of unique villagers and their charming predetermined personalities, as well as exploring your island, fishing, and paying off loans. And to me, all this stuff unique to Tomodachi Life and all this stuff unique to the Animal Crossing games makes them pretty different experiences, even if they do share some similarities. So, while I do think comparing these games to one another is completely valid, I don't think it's at all fair to say one is a better version of the other. Stepping away from the apartment building though, there is so much more you can do on your island. For starters, you have the various stores on your island that you can buy things from, like the food mart, the hat store, the pawn shop, the clothing store, and the interior design shop. What's cool about these stores, other than the fact that you can buy things from, and in the pawn shop's case, sell to them, is that over time, their catalogs will increase and you'll have more and more things to buy. Along with that, you might occasionally see one of your Miis working at one of these stores as their part-time job, which is a really cute little touch. And aside from the stores, you also have locations like the beach, where you can occasionally see, this. And play a game called Judgment Bay, where you can draw options in the sand, like for example, Mario or Sonic, and have your Miis choose between them, with you being able to tap on a Mii to see what they have to say.
There's more than one correct answer.
Okay, well, that seems a little biased. There's the fountain, where all your Miis donate some money to you at the start of every day, and even occasionally have rap battles. And there's the park, the cafe, the amusement park, Mii News, and so many more places that just give you so much to do. I just love how alive these places make the island feel, especially when you have a ton of residents, so almost every place is populated. It really makes it fun to simply just randomly open up the game one day and explore around and see what your Miis are up to. Out of every single location on the island though, there's one that's always stood out to me: the concert hall. The concert hall allows you to write songs and make specific Miis perform them in a particular genre. The way you unlock the ability to do this with Miis is by giving them a song genre as their level up gift. Messing around with the lyrics and genres here is a ton of fun. I have a Mii of Donkey Kong on my island and tried to get him to do a group performance of the DK rap, and it went, well...
Here we go, we're finally here, performing for you, if you know that. What you can join in too, put your hands together, if you want to clap, as we take you through this monkey rap. DK Donkey Kong, DK Donkey Kong is here, DK Donkey Kong.
I think the novelty of being able to do this has definitely died out, especially with how far along AI voice technology has come. But for me, a lot of the charm from being able to do this nowadays definitely comes from how scuffed it sounds. Overall, the various different shops and locations you can visit on the island do a pretty good job at giving the island life, and offer tons of other things to do outside of the game's core gameplay loop of interacting with your Miis in their apartments every day. But Tomodachi Life isn't an entirely perfect game. As I briefly touched on earlier, Miis can form romantic relationships with one another in this game, with the player helping them out when they first ask a Mii to date them, and then again by completing this stressful minigame to get them to propose to their partner. Now at first glance, this seems great. It's just another way Tomodachi Life allows you to build relationships with your Miis. But the big issue here, and the thing that sparked a huge controversy that still surrounds the game till this day, is the inability to have same-sex relationships. You see, while Miis can form friendships with other Miis of any gender, they can only form romantic relationships with Miis of the opposite gender. So, to put it bluntly, you can't be gay in this game, or bisexual, or anything other than straight. This obviously is an incredibly weird thing to have absent from a game that so strongly advertises its relationship aspect. I mean, they could have simply just added an extra box where you could specify what gender a Mii was interested in, if any. And it doesn't just stop there. When this game first released in Japan, there was a bug that allowed same-sex relationships to occur, and people all over Japan loved it, with many buying the game for the sole purpose of being able to form gay relationships. But to many surprise, Nintendo of Japan patched the bug mere days after it gained popularity. But the controversy surrounding this game still doesn't stop there. When Tomodachi Life was eventually localized and released worldwide a year later, fans around the world were very disappointed by the inability to form same-sex relationships, and urged Nintendo to update the game and give players the ability to. In response to this, Nintendo released a very rushed out statement, saying that they never intended to make any sort of social commentary with the launch of Tomodachi Life, which was probably the worst response they could have possibly given. And upon realizing this, they released an apology for what they said earlier, and stated that although they wouldn't be able to add the ability to have same-sex relationships in an update, as they believed it was too game-altering to be in a post-ship patch, they promised that if another Tomodachi game was ever made, they would without a doubt allow same-sex relationships. So while this resulted in a happy ending, with Nintendo acknowledging their mistake and promising to include gay relationships in the next Tomodachi game, it's hard to praise the romantic relationship and marriage aspect of this game when it has such a glaring issue. In the end though, I absolutely do not think this ruins the entire game. There is so much more to Tomodachi Life than just the relationship aspect of it. This game deserves to be remembered for all the amazing things it did, not the one bad thing. With pretty much all major aspects of Tomodachi Life discussed, the last major thing I want to talk about in this video is the possibility of a sequel to the game on the Switch and how I think it could work. Within the last year or two, discussions surrounding an enhanced port or sequel to Tomodachi Life on the Switch have become incredibly prominent, especially after Miitopia got an enhanced port to Switch back in 2021. Personally, I think Tomodachi Life has a pretty good chance to get a sequel on Switch, even more so than an enhanced port. I think Nintendo porting Miitopia to the Switch was a test to see if people even cared about Mii games anymore. And due to the pretty decent success that game had for being a port of a 3DS game people didn't really even know about, and the backlash Nintendo faced in regards to how terribly the Miis were handled in Nintendo Switch Sports, I think it's pretty obvious to them that people still love the Miis and still love Tomodachi Life. A sequel on the Switch could take advantage of a ton of things. Imagine if Nintendo brought back something Street Pass-esque that encouraged people to take their Switch with them places, and pass other people who also had this Tomodachi Life sequel in order to receive exclusive items like you could in the 3DS game. They could also introduce tons of new mini-games that you could play with your Miis that weren't possible in the 3DS. You could have motion control based games like maybe a Wii Sports inspired minigame where your Mii would pitch you a ball and you would swing it to see how far it goes. This sequel could also introduce tons of new clothing options, hairstyle options, and just overall allow much more customization. There could even be celebrations for holidays. Imagine if Mii's dressed up in costumes on Halloween or something. The possibilities for how this sequel could improve upon and introduce more to the Tomodachi series are almost limitless. I'd genuinely be surprised if we don't see an announcement regarding an entry on the Switch in the coming years. Tomodachi Life is easily one of the most creative games on the 3DS. It's such a unique and charming experience that I genuinely believe anybody should try at least once if they're able to. Being able to add literally anybody on your island, give them a personality, voice, and unique clothing to wear, is just such a silly concept that's executed incredibly well. Tomodachi Life may have its issues in regards to its romantic relationships that are definitely worth criticizing the game for, but there is so much more to the game. You can make Mii sing songs, hang out together, form friendships, participate in games, go on vacations. Hell, you can even make your Miis go to space. I will always love Tomodachi Life for just how unique it is. This is a game that can always put a smile on your face. And while it may not be a perfect game, it's still a great one by a lot of standards. It's a game where everyone's experience is different. It's a game that will always keep surprising you, and most importantly, it's a game that is absolutely deserving of a sequel on Switch. Released on December 4th, 2011 here in North America, Mario Kart 7 is the 7th entry in the Mario Kart series. Could you tell? Development for the game started in early 2010, with the main goal the team had being to finally implement the two big gameplay mechanics that were scrapped from Mario Kart Wii. That being the ability to drive your kart underwater and glide down from high places. But despite Mario Kart being one of Nintendo's most popular and best-selling series, Mario Kart 7 initially only began development with 8 staff working on the game, which was obviously not enough to get the game completed for the late 2011 release date they were shooting for. So, in order to speed up the development, Nintendo enlisted the help of Retro Studios, who had just finished working on Donkey Kong Country Returns, and had them co-develop the game alongside Nintendo. But instead of having Retro Studios help out on all aspects of the game, they were instead tasked with creating the returning retro courses that would be featured in the game, as a way of not only introducing this outside team to how the development process for a Mario Kart game works, but also what makes a good Mario Kart track from a design perspective, since they would be working with pre-existing courses. After Retro Studios was brought on board, development for Mario Kart 7 progressed remarkably fast, with Nintendo even being able to add a third gimmick to the game, a new kart customization system that would eventually become a series mainstay.
Mario Kart 7!
Getting into the actual game itself, and starting off with the single-player mode, we have the character roster. Now, initially, the roster here isn't much, as is the case with most Mario Karts, with only the original cast from Super Mario Kart being playable here, with the exception of Donkey Kong Jr., who was replaced with regular DK. However, as you progress through each of the 150cc cups in the game, you'll unlock a new character upon winning each of the cups. You can unlock returning characters Wario, Rosalina, Daisy, and Shy Guy, but you also can unlock 4 completely brand new characters to the Mario Kart series. Wiggler, Metal Mario, Lakitu, and the Honey Queen from Super Mario Galaxy. I mean, honestly, Wiggler and Lakitu are really cool additions to Mario Kart. Hell, even Honey Queen is. But come on, Nintendo. Metal Mario from Super Mario 64? Surely there could have been a better, newer returning character to take this spot. Other than that, though, a pretty solid roster all around. Where things get interesting here, though, is in the kart selection. As I mentioned before, one of the big new gimmicks of Mario Kart 7 is the ability to fully customize your kart, down to the tires and glider it uses. Instead of the much more limited kart customization we saw introduced in Double Dash, that just let you choose the actual car and nothing else. In concept, I absolutely love 7's idea of a full-on kart customization system. I mean, just think of the possibilities it opens up. However, in execution, it's not perfect. In reality, 7's customization system is a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. Like on one hand, allowing all these different customizations with all these different stats gives more experienced players a much easier time creating the optimal build they want. But on the other, shoving all these stats down a player's throat, especially in an extremely casually friendly game like Mario Kart, can just downright confuse people, as it did with me when I was younger. And I mean, allowing players to create extremely lightweight, well-handling combos and vice versa almost completely invalidates the weight class of the character you choose. Which for some may seem like a blessing as it allows them to choose whatever character they want, regardless of weight class. But at the same time, it almost fully removes some of the core strategy from Mario Kart that's been there since the very beginning. Personally though, while I can understand many people's gripes with the kart customization, I without a doubt prefer it over what we had before. I absolutely love how you don't have everything right away, and instead unlock things over time by collecting coins. It's such a great way to incentivize coin collection outside of the minor speed boost they give you. And it's always exciting to go into the kart selection screen and see what you unlocked. So overall, while the kart customization isn't perfect, it's still an incredibly cool new addition to Mario Kart, and something I still love messing around with to this day, in order to see what kind of crazy or just well-rounded customizations I can create. But while on the topic of just one of Mario Kart 7's new gimmicks, why don't we talk about the other two, gliding and underwater racing? Ironically, in all 6 Mario Kart games before 7, players were instinctively taught to avoid water, as in almost every case it was out of bounds if you tried to fully submerge yourself. However here, it's now fully encouraged, and in most cases entirely required for you to completely submerge yourself underwater, as it's now been turned into a core gameplay mechanic, being the central feature of a lot of tracks in the game. And with gliding, it's a completely new and original idea that opens up so many possibilities due to the verticality it offers. With it, you're no longer confined to simply just turning left or right. You have complete freedom and can go in any direction. And although there aren't too many tracks that take full advantage of gliding, the ones that do, like Woohoo Loop, Rock Mountain, and Maka Woohoo, show just how much fun this mechanic could be when it's executed right. And even the tracks that don't take full advantage of it still have incredible ideas and uses for the glider a lot of the time. Just look at SNES Mario Circuit 2. Here, the glider is used to simply launch you over another portion of the track. But if you go to the left, you can bounce off the wall here and cut off a sizable chunk of the track, which just feels so satisfying every time you do it. Returning back to underwater driving though, it isn't just a visual thing. Being underwater also changes your kart's controls, with some combinations excelling in water, and others not so much. These two mechanics are arguably some of the most game-changing mechanics Mario Kart has ever seen. Yet, for some reason, people seem to forget that they originated here and not Mario Kart 8. These are original ideas that genuinely change how you play Mario Kart, and I will always appreciate this game for introducing them. Something I haven't always appreciated some Mario Kart games in the past for, though, is their controls. To my surprise, however, Mario Kart 7 may very well be one of the best controlling games in the series. I don't know exactly if it's just the form factor of the 3DS and the positions of the buttons on the console, or just the controls in general being incredibly polished. It's probably a mix of the both. But I was just blown away by how great the controls felt when returning to this game. The circle pad works phenomenally for steering on the ground, underwater, and in the air. And while a bit small, the shoulder buttons work surprisingly well for drifting around the tracks. One of the absolute coolest parts of Mario Kart 7's controls, though, is the ability to go into first person and steer your kart by tilting the entire console. This isn't something you're going to want to be doing all the time, as the game obviously controls better outside of this mode, but playing like this occasionally, especially with the 3D slider turned up, can be a lot of fun. And is a nice little change of pace from your typical Mario Kart playstyle. I think it would be so cool to see something like this brought back in the future. Okay, so Mario Kart 7 introduced 3 amazing new mechanics to the series, added 4 new characters, and controls incredibly well? Surely its track selection isn't too great then? Wrong! Mario Kart 7 without a doubt has one of the most consistently good track selections in the entire series. Seriously, the selection of courses in this game is heavily underappreciated and not talked about nearly enough. I was so shocked to remember how many great Wii tracks made their way into this game. I mean, you got Coconut Mall, Koopa Cape, Maple Treeway, and even outside of the Wii tracks, you got some great DS tracks, N64 tracks, and just an absolutely stellar retro selection. Created by Retro Studios, of course. But, as you know, returning courses aren't what make a track selection memorable in a Mario Kart game. It's the brand new tracks that really leave an impact. So, let's take a look at all of them. Starting off with the Mushroom Cup, you've got an honestly pretty mid selection of tracks here. Those being Toad Circuit, Daisy Hills, Cheep Cheep Lagoon, and Shy Guy Bazaar. Obviously, as a starter track, Toad Circuit isn't going to be the most insane and technical track in the world, but they definitely could have done a lot more than practically just copy what Figure 8 Circuit did from Mario Kart DS all the way back in 2005. But hey, at least this version of the track looks better than Mario Kart 8's version. Onto Daisy Hills though, this track is a pretty decent tutorial for the glider that also features some pretty fun course elements that at least make it somewhat memorable. The third track of this cup, on the other hand, Cheep Cheep Lagoon, is a whole lot of nothing. The only purpose this track serves is to show off the underwater driving mechanic. That is literally it. There's nothing interesting about it, and it barely does anything with the underwater driving. It just shows you that it exists. The last track of this cup though, Shy Guy Bazaar, is actually a ton of fun, and really the track that saves this cup from being bad overall. Its aesthetic and vibe are so unique, and the creative course elements it has makes this one you'll not only enjoy replaying, but one you'll remember. With a start as bad as the Mushroom Cup, you'd probably be under the impression that every other Nitro Cup is just as bad or even worse than it. But fortunately, that is absolutely not the case, as Mario Kart 7's selection of brand new courses gets a lot better with the Flower Cup. Here you've got Woohoo Loop, Mario Circuit, Music Park, and Rock Rock Mountain. And while Mario Circuit may not be the most interesting course in the world, the other three here definitely are. Woohoo Loop literally takes place on Woohoo Island from Wii Sports Resort and sees you, well, taking a loop around the entire island and seeing all its iconic landmarks. Music Park has this incredibly cool gimmick of incorporating the music of a Mario Kart track into the track itself, with piano and xylophone notes being added to the song as you drive across giant versions of those instruments, with hazards that even sync to the music. And the last track of this cup, Rock Rock Mountain, takes full advantage of the glider, and honestly does a much better job than Daisy Hills ever could at showing off just how cool the mechanic could be when used right. I've always loved just shooting off this ramp and gliding down the mountain. Onto the Star Cup, this Grand Prix starts off strong with Piranha Plant Slide. I've always felt this track is incredibly underrated because its theming is just so cool. It's based off the underground levels from the original 2D Mario games, more specifically the original Super Mario Bros., and it does such a great job at translating the atmosphere and vibes of those levels into a Mario Kart track, while also keeping it unique and introducing some new elements, like the underwater portion at the end. I absolutely love how hard this track leans into the aesthetic of Super Mario Bros. As well. It really feels like I'm driving through a 3D version of a 2D Mario level, as weird as that sounds. But moving on, for the second track of the Star Cup, we have Wario Shipyard. Personally, I've never really been the biggest fan of this track, but I can respect how unique its layout and theme are. It actually takes really good advantage of underwater driving, and that's always going to be worth something. The jets pushing you around and driving through the sunken ship will always be fun, even if it's not my favorite course in the game. One track I am personally a fan of though, at least this game's version of the track, is Neo Bowser City. This course's atmosphere is incredible. For once, instead of a Bowser track taking place in a giant castle, this time it takes place in this futuristic but gloomy neon-lit city, full of so many twists and turns that are incredibly easy to mess up due to the constant rain pouring on the track. I really hope in the future Nintendo does more Bowser courses like this, because the castles do start to get kind of stale. Ending off this cup though, we have without a doubt one of my favorite Mario Kart tracks, just ever. Maka Woohoo. Similar to Woohoo Loop, this track also takes place on Woohoo Island, but this time instead of taking a lap around the island, you're now scaling its giant volcano, going through these caves, diving underwater, and once you reach the top, gliding down to the finish line. I've always loved this track because it just kind of feels like an adventure the whole time. I mean, you're climbing up this giant mountain on this iconic landmark. I still cannot believe we've never seen this track return. Same with Woohoo Loop as well. Just imagine how beautiful both of these tracks would look in Mario Kart 8 if they actually put in the effort to bring them back. On to the final batch of brand new courses though, we have the Special Cup, featuring DK Jungle, Rosalina's Ice World, Bowser's Castle, and Rainbow Road. And while DK Jungle and Rosalina's Ice World are both undoubtedly incredible tracks, with DK Jungle being the first true Donkey Kong themed track in the series, taking many elements from the Donkey Kong Country games, and Rosalina's Ice World being a beautiful homage to Rosalina in the Super Mario Galaxy games, the real star of the show here is Rainbow Road, and not Bowser's Castle, as this game's iteration of Bowser's Castle is just kind of boring. They honestly should have just stuck with Neo Bowser City here, because it is Bowser themed and is leagues more unique and interesting than whatever they had going on here. Back to Rainbow Road though, I mean wow! I know I'm definitely not the first to say it, but they cooked with this track. After 6 Rainbow Roads across 6 games, with almost all of them taking place in space, for the 7th iteration, Nintendo finally took advantage of the fact that these tracks usually take place in space, and made it this entire adventure where you're drifting on the rings of Saturn, speeding across boost pads, landing and driving across the moon, and finally zooming through this rotating cylinder of boost pads and gliding to the finish. Everything about this track just feels like the perfect send-off to the new selection of courses in the game. You've got its incredibly uplifting music, the beautiful atmosphere, and the creative design of the course. I don't know if this Rainbow Road is my favorite, but I will always love it for pushing the limits of what a Rainbow Road can be, and truly making something unique. And that's all the brand new courses in Mario Kart 7. Although this selection of tracks isn't without its stinkers, Mario Circuit, Bowser's Castle, it's overall a very memorable lineup, with some standout additions that will always be fun to go back and race on. But racing isn't the only thing you do in a Mario Kart game. You can't forget about the battle mode. Or, maybe you could. Usually everyone does, but Mario Kart 7's battle mode consists of 2 modes with 6 courses. You've got Balloon Battle and Coin Runners as the 2 modes, and GBA Battle Course 1, N64 Big Donut, DS Palm Shore, Honey Beehive, Sherbet Rink, and Woohoo Town as the 6 courses. This battle mode doesn't do anything we haven't seen a battle mode in another Mario Kart game do, but it does achieve its purpose and is pretty fun. The only real downside here is that you have no option to do Deathmatch in Balloon Battle, so if you run out of balloons, you just respawn and lose points, instead of being out forever like it was in the older Mario Karts. Other than that though, Coin Runners is always fun, and the 6 courses they chose here are a blast to battle on. I especially love the inclusion of Big Donut from Mario Kart 64. The addition of the glider ramp allowing you to cross over a giant pit of lava in the center is great. So overall, while this definitely isn't the Mario Kart I'd go to first for its battle mode, it's also not the one I'd go to last. It gets the job done. Mario Kart 7 is definitely one of the more forgettable games in the series. I mean, everything it introduced was just brought into Mario Kart 8 and arguably done better, with nothing really left unique specifically to it enticing people to go back. Despite this though, it's very important to look at this game through the lens it was looked at when it came out. It had 3 amazing new gimmicks, an incredible retro Nitro track selection, and was portable. This game set the groundwork for what Mario Kart 8 would be, and we should never forget it for that exact reason. This game wasn't the Mario Kart I would always be dying to play, nor is it the one I've made the most memories with. But just because this game hasn't left the same impact the rest of the games in the series have, doesn't mean it should be discounted or forgotten. There's nothing terrible about it. Sure, it's not perfect, but what game is? For a Mario Kart game on the 3DS, 7 achieves its purpose and then some. So, to finally answer the question posed at the very beginning of this video, is Mario Kart 7 bad? No, it's actually pretty damn good. Handheld Mario games have almost always been 2D. From Super Mario Land on the Game Boy to New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, people never really expected a full 3D Mario game to be released on a handheld. The only time it ever happened was with Super Mario 64 DS, and that was a remake. But in 2011, all of that would change with the release of Nintendo's most powerful handheld yet, the 3DS. This system was able to achieve graphics on par with the GameCube, and in 2011, this was a pretty big deal for Nintendo. And although the system may not have launched with it, The 3DS would see the release of the first fully original handheld 3D Mario game, the very appropriately titled Super Mario 3D Land. Developed by the same team responsible for both Super Mario Galaxy games, Super Mario 3D Land was designed to bridge the gap between 2D and 3D Mario games. Ever since Super Mario 64, the difference between 2D and 3D Mario has been night and day. 3D Mario games are about adventure, open level design, and pure creativity, while 2D Mario games, on the other hand, are more traditional. The formula has stayed pretty much the same since its inception back in 1985 with the release of Super Mario Bros. On the NES. But with this game, Nintendo wanted to change that. By combining elements from both 2D and 3D Mario, they were essentially able to create what producer Shigeru Miyamoto describes as a 3D Mario that plays like a 2D Mario game. Along with bridging the gap between 2D and 3D Mario, Super Mario 3D Land was also created to take advantage of the 3DS's new 3D effect. By flicking the slider on the side of the system, you're more easily able to tell the distance and location of different things on the screen. Throughout development, the team wanted to take full advantage of this and designed a lot of the levels in the game around this 3D effect. I guess it sucks that Nintendo gave up on the 3D gimmick halfway through the system's lifetime. Failed console gimmicks aside though, after a 2-year development period from mid-2009 to mid-2011, Super Mario 3D Land was released here in North America on November 13th, 2011. Super Mario 3D Land opens up with a violent storm. We see Peach's castle in the background, but the main focus here is on this tree, which seems to have tanuki leaves flying off it. The next morning, Mario and some toads come across the tree and find a letter floating around nearby. Upon opening it up, they find out that the unthinkable has happened. Bowser kidnapped Peach. Mario is clearly shaken as this has never happened before, and runs off to go find Bowser. This opening is fine, but it really feels more like a 2D Mario opening rather than a 3D one, which is probably what they were going for anyway. After the opening, we're introduced to the world map, which is just a straight line. I don't think this ruins the game in any way at all, it's just kinda weird. Like, even the new Super Mario Bros. Games had more interesting world maps than this. And often they even had split paths that would lead to different levels. Considering this game's short development period though, they probably were strictly focused on gameplay and level design, and other elements like the opening and world map were just thrown together last second and made as simple as possible. Jumping into the first level though, it's great. The stage introduces the big returning power-up of this game, the Tanuki Leaf. Functioning pretty much the exact same way as it did in Mario 3, but now in 3D. The power-up feels amazing. It feels so natural to control, and I absolutely love that instead of introducing a brand new power-up that would most likely get old really quick, they decided to return to one we hadn't seen used in decades, and show just how well it translates into 3D. The Tanuki Leaf isn't the only thing this first level reintroduces though. Almost immediately after collecting it, you'll notice a star coin. And similar to every Mario game before it that's featured star coins, each level has 3 of them spread all throughout to collect. Star coins are by far my favorite part of 3D Land. Even though I've 100%ed this game on multiple occasions, when I went back and played through it for this video, I just couldn't stop collecting them. And by the time I ended up beating the game, I'd collected every single star coin you could get in the main story. The reason this game works so well in 3D is because of the star coins. Without them, you would have no reason to explore the level, and your goal would just be to rush to the end of the stage. The game understands the importance of star coins as well, as in some cases they are literally required to move on. You will get so much more out of this game's levels by exploring them and finding their secrets. Exploration has always been a staple of 3D Mario games, and 3D Land incorporates that aspect incredibly well with its star coins. And on the topic of the levels in 3D Land, they're just as amazing as the star coins. I was genuinely amazed at how creative and enjoyable all the stages were, even after playing through this game so many times. 3D Land without a doubt features some of the absolute best Mario stages of all time, and I want to specifically highlight some of the ones from the main game I enjoyed the most. Starting off with 2-3. This stage revolves around platforming across and exploring giant 8-bit sprites from the original Super Mario Bros. Game. You start off on an 8-bit Mario and eventually make your way across many other iconic sprites like the Super Mushrooms and Princess Peaches. You can also find a hidden 8-bit Luigi if you spin this tail wheel at the beginning. I love how it takes Mario's shoe pixels and puts them on Luigi, so the transition feels seamless in a sense. The end of the stage even features a recreation of Super Mario Bros. 1-1 ending, complete with the original level end theme and everything. But moving on from the nostalgic 2-3, we have the open-ended 3-1. This level is unique because of, well, its openness. You're set loose in this small desert area with a giant tower at its center, and have the option to either explore the outside of the place, or use the cannon to scale the tower. To me, this level gives big Mario Galaxy vibes. It feels like a planet you would travel to in some sort of desert-themed galaxy, and I love it for that. It's also very clear this stage was meant to be explored, as your timer has an extra 200 seconds added onto it, encouraging that. The outside has a bunch of enemies to avoid, but also a bunch of secrets to find. You have this music note section, and even a hidden star coin behind some bricks. I absolutely love how different this stage is from all the rest in the game. It uses open-ended level design as its gimmick, which is just so cool. Even once you're inside the tower, that open-ended level design is still pretty prevalent, with the inside offering some different paths at times. Moving on though, we have easily one of the coolest levels in the game, 5-2. This stage is heavily inspired by the 2D Zelda series with its fixed top-down camera angle and more Zelda dungeon-esque layout. Even just the layout alone being inspired by 2D Zelda would have been enough to make this stage stand out. But the fact that they fully embrace the inspiration and design parts of the level similar to how Zelda dungeons work is incredible. I mean, just look at some of the star coins. The first one is hidden away in this small area you can barely see, which I can only imagine is referencing the bombable walls in Zelda 1 that were impossible to tell apart. The second involves using a fire flower to light torches, obviously referencing a common Zelda series trope, even playing the iconic puzzle solve jingle. This level seamlessly blends both the Zelda and Mario formulas together to create a level that I absolutely love. Last up for this section, we have my personal favorite stage in the game, 7-4. This one takes place inside a giant clock. Very reminiscent of Tick-Tock Clock from Super Mario 64, but in my opinion, done a lot better than that level. Almost every aspect of the stage is always moving, and you have to time your platforming to be in tune with that rhythm. I love how unique this entire stage is. It never overuses a single concept and constantly introduces new ones throughout its short runtime. It also has a completely unique song made for it that fits it so well. I used to constantly replay this one all the time when I was younger. I love how creative it is. The levels in this game are amazing. Each one features a unique concept and each one fleshes out that concept incredibly well. Similar to Luigi U, there isn't a level in this game that I disliked. It really feels like a lot of time was put into making them as creative and well thought out as they could be. The little details present in some of these stages make them so special, and although some of them may be short, I would so much rather that than a longer level that's just filled with pre-used concept and filler to pad out the length of the game. The reason the level design works so well in 3D Land is because of its creativity. Where most 2D Mario games have levels designed around the world they take place in, like how a snow world has snow levels or a jungle world has jungle levels, 3D Land's levels don't care about having or following a distinct theme for their world. They're just unique. One of the best examples of this is a stage in World 8. This stage is filled with green grass, happy music, and a vibrant forest below, while the world map for World 8 shows that it's filled with lava and volcanoes. So sure, world and level theming is good, yes, but 3D Land understands that its main focus is level design, and doesn't hold back well-designed levels just because it doesn't adhere to a certain theme. Moving on from the levels though, I want to talk about something that 3D Land handles really well. Perception. As you probably know, one of the defining features of the 3DS was its stereoscopic 3D. With the flick of a slider, you were able to see the world in a whole new way. And while this 3D effect certainly helped all throughout the game, offering more depth to the areas you were exploring, this effect is best used in the game's optical illusion areas, where it may seem like a block is in a certain position, but after turning the 3D effect on, you realize it's in a completely different location. And although I can't really show how the 3D effect works and you'll just have to take my word for it, the use of 3D in this game is heavily underappreciated and works extraordinarily well. At the end of every world in this game, there's either a castle or an airship. In most cases, it's an airship, but in World 1, 5, and 8, it's a castle. These airship and castles are some of the coolest parts of the game, not only in their level design, but also their boss fights. World 1 and 5's castle levels are a lot of fun. It's so cool to see a Bowser's castle level in 3D. And the fights with Bowser himself are a ton of fun. He's so gigantic in scale to Mario and really feels threatening at times. The airship levels though are where this game really gets good. They're designed so well and a lot of fun to platform through. The first is very simple. You're not doing anything crazy, but rather getting well adjusted to how an airship level works in 3D. The second one though is amazing. It involves avoiding skewers, spikes, and bob-ombs. It's so much more open than the previous, and really takes advantage of the fact that the game is 3D. At the end of each of these airship levels, you fight a boss. At first it's Boom Boom, and he actually translates really well into 3D. And honestly, he's done better in this game than he is in New Super Mario Bros. U. I love how he goes into a shell and tries to attack you instead of just sitting there like he does in other Mario games. After you beat Boom Boom a few times though, you're introduced to a new boss enemy, Pom Pom. Instead of spinning around barbarically like Boom Boom, Pom Pom is more calculated, shooting shurikens and homing in on the player with her shell. I love the introduction of Pom Pom. I find it so lame when a boss is constantly reused throughout a game, so 3D Land introducing a completely new boss enemy halfway throughout its runtime really freshens things up. Pom Pom's fights are a lot more interesting than Boom Boom's, and I absolutely love seeing her return in this game's sequel, Super Mario 3D World. And while Boom Boom's and Pom Pom's fights on their own were great, World 7's airship takes things to the next level, and pits you against both of them at the same time. This fight is genuinely difficult at points, and the two work really well together in battle. It's hard to avoid both of their attacks at the same time due to how differently they act. But after defeating Boom Boom and Pom Pom for good, and making your way through the final world of the main game, World 8, you're met with what seems to be the final level of the game, 8-Bowser. To even get into this stage, you need 90 star coins, which is a lot. Jumping into the level itself though, it's incredible. You have the two Magic Koopas on you right as you start the level. There's an arrow platform section where you have to use them to cross a lake, all while the Magmargs rise up from below. The stage features a lot of different elements that are put together incredibly well, and combined to make a level that the player will always remember. The real highlight of this stage though has to be the Bowser fight. It's very similar to the last two before it, but just a little more fleshed out and difficult enough to make it feel fresh. After defeating Bowser here though, you quickly learn that this wasn't the true final fight, as he does whatever this is, and makes his escape with Peach in hand. I'm so glad this wasn't the final fight because while yes it works well as a Bowser fight, it absolutely does not work well as a final Bowser fight. It's way too similar to the ones before it, and not extravagant or epic like most final Bowser fights are. On to the real final level though, I cannot stress enough how good it is. The entire stage takes place on a spine coaster, with the level opening with the spine coaster going right into a giant Bowser mouth. This stage is both a spectacle and a difficult challenge. The entire time I'm playing it, I want to look around at the scenery and appreciate Bowser's giant castle. But constantly the level has you narrowly avoiding fireballs that shoot out from the walls. The end of the stage even has you quickly swerving back and forth as the onslaught of fireballs gets even more crazy. The absolute best part of this stage though is its length. It's incredibly short, but the spine coaster ride is way more fun this way. As if it was any longer, it would definitely have started to drag on and get boring. This final level is one of the best examples of 3D Land understanding the importance of concise level design. If a stage works better short, then make it short. Runtime is not a defining factor in what makes a game good. Just look at Bowser's Fury. Moving on though, after making your way through the spine coaster and shooting your way up to Bowser's Tower, you're on the doorstep of one of the greatest final fights in Mario history. After falling down with Mario as well, Bowser does everything in his power to try to stop you. He shoots fireballs, throws spikes, and even throws barrels like he's Donkey Kong. You'll never be him, Bowser. This fight is more of a platforming challenge than a battle, and it works really well because of that. I love how after you flip the switch and make him fall into the lava, he just shows up 5 minutes later like nothing happened. This time shooting even more powerful fireballs as the entire stage crumbles with each new jump you make. All of this culminates to the final section, a chase sequence where Bowser dashes at Mario at full speed. All while you have to avoid bricks that you have less than a second to react to. This whole chase scene is incredibly tense, and by far one of the coolest final sequences in Mario history. Upon the defeat of Bowser, the sky clears and Mario is finally able to rescue Peach. And right after doing so, makes use of the Tanuki leaf and flies off with her back to the Mushroom Kingdom, bringing a wonderful end to this incredible game. But surely this game couldn't get any better than this, right?
Help me.
Oh, but it can. After beating the game, you don't only unlock one special world, but 8 special worlds, doubling the amount of courses in this game. These special worlds feature remix courses from that of the main game, and also sometimes entirely new courses. The remix courses are a lot of fun, and genuinely are different enough from the courses they originate from to feel fresh. You also unlock the ability to play as Luigi once you beat the first special world castle, which is absolutely amazing. The levels in these special worlds offer a great challenge and introduce so many ideas to pre-existing levels, and overall create one of the absolute best post-games of any Mario game. I strongly recommend you try out these special world levels if you never have. They are very much worth it. Underrated. That is the best word I can use to describe Super Mario 3D Land. This game features such a beautiful mess of unique and creative ideas that combine together to create some of the best level design the Mario series has to offer. Constantly throughout this game, you'll be surprised at just how many new ideas it manages to have. Even in just the first world alone, 3D Land consistently introduces, fleshes out, and moves on to a multitude of different ideas. When I first planned to go back and play 3D Land for this video, I was very skeptical. I mean, sure, I grew up with this game and remembered loving it to death, but it had been almost 4 years since I properly sat down and played through it. What if it didn't live up to how I perceived it when I was younger? To my surprise though, I was so wrong to be skeptical about this game. Everything from 1-1 to the final Bowser fight is so cleverly crafted and well thought out that I almost feel bad for forgetting about it for a few years. If you've never played this game before, I really hope this video has convinced you to at least try it. Not only is this one of the best 3DS games, it's one of the best Mario games. I can confidently say without a doubt in the world that Super Mario 3D Land is an absolute masterpiece. Initially released here in North America on March 24th, 2013, and later re-released in the form of an HD port on the Nintendo Switch on June 27th, 2024, Luigi's Mansion 2, originally known as Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon in North America, was a return to a series that had been dormant for almost 12 years at that point. I mean, when Luigi's Mansion 1 launched with the GameCube all the way back in 2001, people didn't really expect a sequel. The game released to okay reviews from critics and sold a decent amount considering the console it was on, but the whole thing seemed like a one and done deal. However, behind the scenes at Nintendo, things were pretty different. First off, during the game's development, and even shortly after, director Hideki Kono continuously floated the idea of having a glasses-free 3D mode for the game, as the GameCube was originally planned to have glasses-free 3D capability, with Kono even revisiting the GameCube's hardware after it was released to create a 3D prototype demo of Luigi's Mansion. However, at the time, this glasses-free 3D was far too expensive for Nintendo, and would have practically doubled the price of the console. Regardless of Kono's failed Luigi's Mansion 3D project though, the idea of a Luigi's Mansion sequel was constantly thrown around, specifically due to the Poltergust, which a lot of people at Nintendo thought was super fun to use, and allowed for really cool and creative puzzle design. However, each time this idea was brought up, it wouldn't get anywhere. That was until Nintendo started work on the successor to the extremely popular DS. With this new console, Nintendo realized they could finally integrate the glasses-free 3D they had dreamed about with the GameCube. And because of this, also realized it was finally time for that Luigi's Mansion sequel they'd been wanting to make for quite a while. So, shortly after official work started on the 3DS in 2009, Nintendo reached out to Canadian developer Next Level Games, who had previously worked on the Mario Strikers games and Punch-Out for the Wii. And, according to an Iwata Asks interview, surprised them with the idea that they would be making Luigi's Mansion 2. With the whole studio being shocked, but really excited to work on the project. Therefore beginning its just over 3-year development time, spanning from mid-2009 to late 2012, and kicking off the Year of Luigi celebrations with its release in 2013. Upon opening the game for the first time, you're greeted to this cutscene of Professor Egad from the first game working on something, with a ghost behind him who seems to be sneaking up on him, but is actually just saying hi. Before it's revealed that Egad has a whole array of friendly ghosts helping him out in this lab. Unfortunately though, the friendly demeanor these ghosts carry doesn't last for long, as we see King Boo heading toward the dark moon in the sky and shattering it into pieces, causing the once calm ghost to suddenly become aggressive and start lashing out, absolutely destroying the lab, with Egad hightailing it out of there. After that, we then fade into a shot outside of Luigi's house, which is actually the D-rank mansion from Luigi's 1. I guess confirming the canon rank ending of that game. Inside the house, we see Luigi sound asleep in front of the TV, before it suddenly turns to static, slowly awaking him and causing him to approach the glitching TV. A scene oddly reminiscent of an iconic scene from the film Poltergeist, which this cutscene is clearly referencing, before Egad shows up on the TV, begging for Luigi's help with the ghost's outbreak. Before, without Luigi's permission, begins sucking him into the TV with his new invention, the Pixelator, and dragging him to his underground lab, forcing him to set out after the Poltergust 5000, so that Luigi can start catching ghosts and find all the pieces of the shattered Dark Moon. This opening is pretty cool actually. I love the Poltergeist reference with Luigi approaching the TV, and the concept of the Dark Moon keeping the ghosts in line, and the goal of the game being to repair the moon is a great way to switch things up instead of just having Mario be kidnapped again. But we'll return to that later. Overall, a great way to set up the game. Apart from Mario not being the driving point of the initial story, the game also has two big differences gameplay-wise from its GameCube predecessor. And that's the mission-based structure of the game, and the fact that there are multiple mansions you explore instead of just one. The mission-based structure of the game is almost immediately apparent as soon as the opening cutscenes end, as Egad sends you on your first mission, A-1 Poltergust 5000, outlining the world and level structure the missions have in this game. This structure is already an incredibly big departure from the first game, as Luigi's Mansion 1 just kinda threw you in the mansion, and only really pulled you out after you completed a major objective like defeating the boss of that area. This kind of structure 2 goes for can really be a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. On one hand, the missions allow you to endlessly replay certain sections of the game instead of having to create a new save file and get to that specific area you wanted to play again, and also lets you be able to speedrun each mission individually and go for the fastest time possible to get a higher ranking. But on the other hand, it can really pull you out of the game, physically and figuratively. On the physical side, you are genuinely constantly being pulled out of the mission and put back in, making it annoying if you planned on exploring a certain area but were pulled out and have to trek all the way back there. And on the figuratively side, this can really affect immersion, as it doesn't feel like you're exploring the mansion on your own terms, rather exploring it the way the game wants you to, which can be super annoying and really takes away a lot of what people enjoyed about the first game. And on the topic of immersion, along with the annoying amount of times you're pulled out of the mansion by Egad, he also calls you constantly on this game's Game Boy horror equivalent, the dual screen. And while the ringtone that plays when he calls you is a banger, it's not very fun to consistently be bothered by this bald old man, telling you things you most likely already know or would have been more fun to figure out on your own. This calling issue does get better in the later parts of the game, but especially at the beginning in Gloomy Manor, it feels like he stops you after each new step you take to tell you what you need to do next. I mean, at this point, if he wants you to do each thing in his specific way, he should get his old bald ass out of the lab and go do it himself. Jokes aside though, while I do get annoyed by Egad's constant interruption at the beginning, Gloomy Manor is a fantastic way to start the game. As soon as you're zapped outside the manor on your first mission to get the Poltergust, It immediately gives those classic Luigi's Mansion 1 vibes as you make your way through the front yard to the door. I really like how while Luigi's Mansion 1 wants to be different than the first and explore a lot of different themes through its different locations, it still starts everything off familiar to what fans of the first game would expect, before becoming something completely unique and different later on. To this day, Gloomy Manor is still one of my favorite locations in the series. I feel it combines that classic Luigi's Mansion vibe with the new cartoony art style that 2 brought to the series, and is a great merge of the 2 different atmospheres. And the music here does a stellar job at getting this point across. It has that classic Luigi's Mansion spooky vibe, but not in a creepy way like the first game's music did, instead in a more lighthearted way. This isn't the music I'd imagine would play in a super scary haunted house designed to creep you out and have you on edge. Rather, the music I'd imagine playing in a Scooby-Doo-esque haunted house. And the absolutely downright goofy traps the ghosts have in this house, like the stairs disappearing causing Luigi to slide all the way down flat on his face, furthers that sentiment as well. And speaking of the goofy traps the ghosts place throughout the mansions, I really want to touch on how outstanding of a job this game does at bringing the characters to life. Luigi's Mansion 1 was a great game, but it didn't do all that much in the cutscene and animation department, and that was perfectly fine at the time. However, with Luigi's Mansion 2, the team really took this game's animations and cutscenes to the next level. Get it? Because they're called next level games. The way Luigi is brought to life in this game is remarkable and brings the biggest smile to my face. From Luigi blinding himself with the flashlight while trying to check out the new upgrade he got, to waving to himself and laughing as he tests out a portal with his hand. It's also full of life and charm, and really is a super cute and super great way to celebrate his character. Even scared out of his mind, Luigi is still his whimsical self, joking around and entertaining himself. I love it. And these hilariously well done animations and cutscenes aren't just limited to Luigi. Egad, and especially the ghosts, have tons of funny interactions and moments as well. With one of my favorites being these 2 ghosts literally reenacting a scene from Frankenstein. It's so unserious, but that's what makes them so great in the first place. These all lend super well to the cartoony nature of the game, and just like we see in Luigi's Mansion 3, make the whole thing feel like you're literally playing a cartoon. I know I say that a lot about these games, but it's true. So many things that go on in this game just feel like I'm playing a cartoon like Scooby-Doo, and that level of charm really sticks with you. Next Level Games did a fantastic job bringing the world of this game to life, and by far is one of my favorite aspects of it. I mean, just look at this ghost hiding in the mummy. That's so good. On the topic of characters though, while I was just extensively praising this game for its great animation work, one thing I cannot praise it for is its characters. The original Luigi's Mansion had an insane variety of unique characters. You had the introduction of King Boo and Professor Egad, but also 23 unique boss ghosts. Each one of these guys were distinct in their own way, and I really loved how different they were from the regular ghosts you would encounter around the mansion. And even though you didn't spend much time around them, most of them had a unique personality and gave them a lot more life than the basic ghosts around the place. In Luigi's Mansion 2 though, you don't really have that at all, with all of the major bosses of the game being the possessor ghosts, who possess inanimate objects and hide in them during fights. And while this idea would be cool for maybe 1 or 2 bosses, I really missed the more unique humanoid ghosts we saw in Luigi's Mansion 1, and really enjoyed seeing them return in 3. The most unique boss ghost in this game isn't even a boss ghost, it's Polterpup, who we love, by the way. I think Luigi's Mansion 3 handled the idea of possessing an inanimate object really well with its piano fight, but more importantly, its T-Rex fight. This fight sees you for the first half facing off against a giant T-Rex fossil, until it's revealed that it was being possessed, but not just by any regular ghost. It's being possessed by a caveman ghost, which you fight in the second half, and I love that. I think this game could have really profited off more creative ideas like that for the bosses at the end of each mansion. And while on the subject of the different mansions, let's talk about them. Luigi's Mansion 2 is the only game in the series to feature more than one main location for Luigi to explore. While 1 had you explore its mysterious and ominous mansion, and 3 had you explore its absolutely giant hotel boasting tons of floors, Luigi's Mansion 2 spreads things out across 5 different mansions. You got Gloomy Manor, Haunted Towers, Old Clockwork, Secret Mine, and Treacherous Mansion. And while I already praised Gloomy Manor for being one of my favorite locations in the series, the rest of the mansions here are still great. Haunted Towers has this greenhouse theme, and while this game isn't nearly as creepy as the first, exploring around this place in its dilapidated state was really cool and I loved the atmosphere. It looked like a bunch of failed experiment rooms that you'd see in a post-apocalyptic game or something. The funniest part about this mansion, though, is the final boss. You see, your whole time here sees you trying to get inside of this giant tree in the center and retrieve the Dark Moon piece. But once you do, you're met with probably the most annoying boss fight in the game. These stairs. What you're supposed to do is go up the staircases with the torches not lit, but it's almost impossible to memorize each one before the torches all go out, so you'll most likely be spending a lot of time here. Moving on, Old Clockworks is this abandoned factory, and has some of the coolest puzzles in the game, and was probably my favorite mansion to explore out of the 5. Secret Mine, like the name suggests, is a mine hidden beneath a log cabin, and the atmosphere here is amazing. The music combined with the design and detail of this place really left an impression on me. My main issue with it though is that it has the least amount of missions of any other mansion in the game. I really wish I could have spent more time here. It felt like it ended way too soon. And the final mansion of the game, Treacherous Mansion, was actually a lot cooler than I expected. This one returns to the classic mansion style of Gloomy Manor, but does it in a much different way. The whole place is a museum with a bunch of different exhibits, and the puzzles in it revolve around making clever use of the items and elements in those exhibits, and bringing them to each other to solve the puzzles. The one big thing I will commend the Treacherous Mansion for though, compared to the others, is its openness. The game doesn't really hold your hand at all in the missions that take place here, and I really like that. It genuinely felt like I was exploring this place and brought back the feeling of exploring the different rooms in Luigi's Mansion 1. In the end, the multiple mansions of this game do feel like a cop-out to be able to stick to the whole mansion theme, while also being able to explore different themes. But it doesn't really bother me all that much, because you can tell there was a lot of thought and care put into these different locations. And they're still a blast to explore. And that sentiment of the locations being a blast to explore while still having their flaws is kind of like the thesis of this game. Luigi's Mansion 2 may not have the atmosphere or level of uniqueness of the first, and it may not have the incredible graphics and new concepts of 3, but damn is it still so fun to play. And that's something I want to talk about. This game is just such a blast to play. During development, the team changed the control scheme almost like 8 times. And you can really tell they spent a lot of time refining it, because controlling Luigi just feels really good here. Along with that, collecting gold and sucking up ghosts feels even better. I love charging up the meter while sucking up the ghosts, and quickly pressing A to blast away huge chunks of their health. It's in my opinion the most satisfying poltergeist controls in this series. The gems hidden in each mansion are also a ton of fun to find too, with a lot of them making clever use of the new dark light mechanic, which sees you scanning around for objects that have been made invisible by the booze. Some of these are pretty bullshit and see you kind of just randomly scanning and finding one, but a lot of the more important ones see you noticing little out of place things in a room and dark lighting them back into existence. For all the hate this game gets for not being as good as the others in some aspects, it really needs to be recognized that this game is just plain old fun, and it's important for a video game to do that. It may not be perfect in all aspects, but it's good where it counts. And before I head into the final boss of this game, the one last thing I wanted to talk about quickly is the Switch remaster. When this was announced, I and many others were cautiously excited. On one hand, I was super surprised to see them bringing this to Switch, and really excited to finally have a reason to fully play through it, as I thought it would be fun to experience it on the Switch. But on the other hand, regardless of its title of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, it didn't look all that different from how it looked on the 3DS. I mean, just look at Metroid Prime Remastered, which released just a couple months before this was announced. That game was a proper and full remaster of one of the most popular GameCube games, and wasn't even full price, only being $40 American compared to Nintendo's usual price of $60. Then look back at 2 HD. This looked like a lazily upscaled port of a 3DS game that they were just gonna sell for $60 to make a quick buck. And looking back, we were kind of right. This game did end up being full priced. And while when looking at this side by side with the 3DS game, it is very clear that there was a lot of work done to improve the textures and graphics, it still doesn't even come close to living up to 3's visuals. So while this is the definitive way to play the game, with it controlling and looking a bit better on Switch, it still is a little embarrassing for this game to be full priced when first of all it wasn't even that expensive on the 3DS, and second of all a game like Metroid Prime Remastered exists for a much cheaper price and is actually remastered. Enough about prices and graphics though. I think it's time we get into the main villain and final boss of this game, King Boo. You remember when I said earlier the whole point of this game wasn't to rescue Mario and instead was all about restoring the Dark Moon so that the ghost would return to being nice? Well, that is how it's initially presented to the player, but as you get further into the game, you slowly start to realize that that isn't all that you're doing. And eventually through hints and then finally a full reveal that Mario is kidnapped, the main goal of the game also becomes saving Mario. This feels like a really weird twist because I think collecting the pieces of the Dark Moon was a compelling enough story, but it doesn't really bother me. Anyway, after realizing Mario is kidnapped, Luigi tries to track down King Boo and the final Dark Moon piece to restore peace to Evershade Valley and also rescue Mario. This leads into the final boss fight of the game. The fight begins with this really cool sequence of Luigi being sucked back through the pixelator after completing a mission, and being forced to be face to face with King Boo as he tries to take care of Luigi once and for all. This fight sees you avoiding King Boo's various attacks and trying to stun him by having giant spike balls land on his head. What is with this guy and giant spike balls? Anyway, after each time of successfully stunning King Boo and draining his health, you're brought into these really cool chase sequences where you have to act super quickly on your feet in order to avoid getting hit by him rolling towards you in King Ball form. This fight is honestly super cool, and I vastly prefer it over 1's final fight. There are so many cool ideas here, and it's not too hard that it becomes annoying, but also not too easy where I feel bored. It's just the right amount of difficulty in my opinion. And so after successfully draining King Boo's health enough, you're finally able to suck him up, bringing a beautiful end to an amazing game. Luigi's Mansion 2, or Luigi's Dark Moon as a lot of people know it as, is a game that kind of became forgotten with time, that is until it was ported to Switch. And after finally playing through and beating it, I don't understand why. Sure, this game has its fair share of issues, it's not perfect in the slightest, but there are so many fun aspects of it, and it really was a game that I couldn't put down till I beat it. I had so much fun exploring the many different mansions of this game and solving the super unique puzzles each one had. This game introduced so many new ideas to the series that it doesn't get nearly enough credit for. I mean, for one, we have the blacklight mechanic which allows for so many unique puzzle opportunities, and who can forget about Scarescraper? Bringing multiplayer to Luigi's Mansion is such a goofy idea, but it's done so well and adds almost endless replayability to the game. Luigi's Mansion 2 may not be a perfect game, hell, to some it may not even be a great game, but at the end of the day, this is a title that did an amazing job at bringing the Luigi's Mansion series back to life. And if it weren't for this game and a bunch of its ideas and concepts, we would have never gotten Luigi's Mansion 3. So to finally answer the question posed at the very beginning of this video, is Luigi's Mansion 2 bad? I don't think so. This is a game that, despite its flaws, deserves to be remembered, and one I would very much recommend giving a try if you can get past its not so great price. Released on July 28th, 2012, New Super Mario Bros. 2, as stated before, is the third entry in the New Super Mario Bros. Series, following the immense success of its predecessors on the DS and Wii. In the months leading up until its launch, there really wasn't much hype for this game. From the trailers, it just looked like New Super Mario Bros., but on the 3DS. Along with that, another New Super Mario Bros. Game was set to release only 4 months after this one on the Wii U as a launch title. The only thing this game had going for it was its coin gimmick. And I mean, who is gonna spend $40 just to do something you could do in any other Mario game? Well, other than me. This game opens up just like every other 2D Mario game. Mario and Luigi leave the princess unattended, this time flying off with one of the returning power-ups in this game, the Tanuki Leaf, only to be interrupted by the Koopalings, who have once again kidnapped Peach and fly off with her while Mario and Luigi chase them. After that, it's straight into the first world, where we seem to hear some music that's oddly familiar. But we'll talk about that a little more later. For now, let's get into the levels of this game. Starting off with the first level, it's obviously not anything special. It's simple and short, and introduces the coin gimmick pretty well with this underground section showing you the sheer amount of coins you can collect compared to previous games. The second level showcases the Mega Mushroom, another returning power-up in this game. And while destroying everything in your path is fun, it's not something we haven't seen before, which is one of the things that really holds a lot of the levels back in this game. I mean, look at 1-4. It's a level that takes place high in the sky, where you platform along a bunch of stationary and moving colorful mushrooms. Where have we seen that before? Along with this, NSMB 2 has one of the lamest renditions of the World 1 Sky Mushroom stages. In DS, we had the bouncy pink mushrooms, which were a lot of fun to jump around on. In Wii, you had those giant rotating mushroom blocks and the brick conveyor belts that you could ride to get a star coin or collect some red coins. But in New Super Mario Bros. 2, you got the mushrooms, and I mean, some of them move. The levels here just feel stale a lot of the time. Whether it be the reused ideas, locations, power-up gimmicks, it all starts to blend in with the other games, and is one of the reasons I rarely ever go back to this entry. But the levels aren't always bad. Sometimes this game is really able to spread its wings and show its originality. Just take a look at the cannons in this game. Unlike DS and Wii where you just shot to the next world, this time you have to actually play through a cool auto-running level, which I can only imagine is the inspiration behind Super Mario Run. The first one is obviously very simple, but as you get into the later ones, you have to start avoiding more well-placed enemies, and sometimes even bounce off of them to be able to complete the stage. Along with that, these levels have an incredibly cool visual style that's different from anything we've ever seen in the new Soup series. I love these cannon levels. I love that it requires the player to have actual skill to complete. It's such a perfect idea because it allows the cannons to still exist so that speedrunning is more interesting, but also makes them difficult enough to complete so that not just any player can skip to World 8 in like 10 minutes because they watch Andre from GameXplain show them the secret exit in Roy's snakefuck castle.
To reveal the hidden path to a green toad house in the canyon in World 1, you'll have to find the secret flagpole in the forest.
Another reason I love the cannons so much in this game is the worlds they lead to. Instead of sticking with the weird tradition this series has, with World 1 being grasslands, World 2 being desert, World 3 being snowy, World 4 being beachy, World 5 being a jungle, etc., this game introduces 2 new world types while sticking to 8 worlds overall. These new worlds being the Mushroom World and Flower World. The way they were able to add these worlds while also maintaining all the world themes from the other games was to combine different world themes together, which is something I've always loved about this game. Instead of World 3 just having a beach theme, you see on the map that the beach slowly transitions into a jungle, and that the levels start to change to a more jungly theme, before finally becoming entirely jungle-based. In World 5, the theme is mostly sky and cloud related, but near the end of the world, you see some mountains start to peek through the clouds, which is reflected in the level of that area, 5-6, being mountain themed. This is such a small thing overall, but it makes some of these worlds feel far less bland and repetitive, while also keeping their respective themes. But back to the new worlds in this game, Mushroom and Flower, these worlds feature some of my absolute favorite levels in the entire game. The first level in World Mushroom is this extremely colorful athletic level placed high in the clouds. You're platforming across these Super Mario Bros. 3 inspired blocks, throwing Koopa shells, stomping Goombas. It's what I wish the first level of this game was. It's simple and to the point, but really shows how vibrant this game can get. One of the reasons I love these worlds so much is because they don't conform to a particular world theme, but rather create something completely distinct, regardless of setting. Often even introducing completely new times of day to these world themes. Just take a look at Flower Dash 1. It takes place in a sunset mountain setting, something we've never seen before, and is filled with snake blocks and colorful pipes. Along with this, these worlds sometimes introduce enemies from different world themes in completely new places. One of the best examples of this is in Flower Dash 3, where we see a Cheap Chomp, an enemy usually seen in underwater and beach themed levels, now put in a jungle themed level, swimming in the poison water while you swing across vines trying to avoid it. The point I'm trying to get across is that this game continuously shows that it's able to be original and bring new ideas to the series, but time and time again shows the complete opposite for the bulk of its runtime. I mean, just look at the soundtrack of this game. Notice first how I'm calling it a soundtrack and not an OST. OST stands for Original Soundtrack, and calling this game soundtrack original wouldn't be farther from the truth. There are about 40 tracks in this game, and of these about 40, there are, and trust me, I went through every single song in the main soundtrack and checked, 20 tracks outright stolen from New Super Mario Bros. Wii with nothing changed at all other than the fact that they're compressed to 3DS sound quality, 12 remixed tracks, with most of these remixed tracks just adding BOS to pre-existing NSMB Wii tracks, and 4 completely original songs. 4. Out of the 36 I mentioned, 4 are completely original. I know NSMB Wii had this issue with a lot of tracks from DS, but at least those were remixed or re-recorded to sound different. These were not. And it's really unfortunate because a unique soundtrack could have made this game so much more memorable. Along with stealing songs from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, this game also sometimes straight up steals Koopaling fights from that game. I mean, just look at Iggy's fight in this game compared to his fight in Wii. It's practically identical and really further cements my biggest problem with this game. It sometimes just feels like New Super Mario Bros. Wii ported to 3DS. But all of this, the reused music, sometimes lackluster levels, rehashed boss fights, and short runtime are all nullified because of one aspect of this game. Coins, baby! Oh my god, coins here, coins there, coins everywhere! Coin Goomba, Coin Koopa, Coin Piranha Plant! Fuck it. Coin Fish. Yes, I somehow managed to ramble on about this game for multiple minutes without mentioning the main gimmick of this game, coin collecting. While it obviously doesn't nullify every problem this game has, it certainly helps it stand out from the other games. Collecting coins was always something you just did in other Mario games. You didn't really think about it, you just kinda grabbed them if you saw them. But in New Super Mario Bros. 2, coins are now the main focus, and every level has at least some way to collect an absurd amount of them. Whether that be gold rings that turn every enemy golden and reward coins when chaining defeats on them, the golden brick that awards you coins every time you move, or the one and only new power-up in this game, the Gold Flower. The Gold Flower turns Mario into, well, Gold Mario, and is one of the most fun and satisfying Mario power-ups ever. It functions just like a fire flower, however, having an explosion effect when it collides with an enemy, brick, or wall, turning everything it hits into a bunch of coins. Now this coin collecting is fun and all, but what's the incentive? Extra lives? More score? I mean, why would anyone possibly waste hours upon hours of their life collecting coins in a Mario game? Oh. The global coin counter. One of the main reasons I poured so many hours into this game when I was a kid. All it does is keep a tally of every coin you've collected with a cap of 10 million coins. Well, I guess 9,999,999 coins to be exact. This one basically useless counter practically saves the game in my eyes. Without it, child me would have stopped playing the game so much sooner than I did. I used to love going back into some of my favorite coin-filled levels and just seeing how many I could collect. All while I watched that counter slowly get higher and higher. It was the perfect pastime for me. Waiting at the airport? Coins. On a long drive? Coins. Sitting on the side of the highway because your parents' car broke down and they're desperately waiting for someone to come help you, but the weather is really bad and there's not really good cell service? Coins. Obviously now you'd have something like your phone to pass the time on, but I mean, for a kid in 2012, this was amazing. And I mean, how could I mention coin collecting in this game without talking about the extra mode made specifically for doing said thing? Coin Rush. A mode all about collecting coins. Okay, well it's more interesting than that. Coin Rush has a variety of level packs to choose from, with some being paid DLC released a few months after the game's launch, that see you speedrunning through modified pre-existing and Coin Rush exclusive levels to collect as many coins as you can. You have a pretty strict time limit and have to avoid dying even once, or else you have to restart from the very beginning of the pack. The starting packs are pretty easy. These are levels you're familiar with, and the levels chosen aren't particularly difficult ones. However, in the later packs, and especially DLC packs, these can get absurdly hard. Some of the hardest 2D Mario levels ever made come from this mode, with the Impossible pack really living up to its name. These levels are incredibly fast-paced even without the time limit, and require almost perfect knowledge of the game's mechanics to even stand a chance in. The DLC packs for this game are one of the coolest things Nintendo has ever done. One of my favorite packs they released was the Gold Classics pack. It doesn't feature impossibly hard levels like the Impossible pack, rather features a bunch of remade levels from classic 2D Mario games that are just a blast to run through collecting as many coins as you can. Coin Rush is something I never hear people talk about when they mention this game. It not only made collecting coins that much more fun, but had some of the most creative, difficult, and fun Mario levels we've ever seen. This mode does not nearly get enough credit for what it is. Another really cool thing that inspired me to keep collecting coins in this game was the title screen. As you collect more and more coins, the title screen reflects this, with every milestone you reach adding more coins to the background of the title screen. It was such a small thing, but that little show of progress kept me going. The coin collecting gimmick might sound dumb now in retrospect, but it really is what separated it from all the other games in the series, especially New Super Mario Bros. U, which was released only 4 months after this game. But enough about coins. Getting back to the main game itself, there's just one more main thing I wanted to talk about. Bowser! Now in both New Super Mario Bros. Games I covered before this, which were DS and Wii, I praised these games for either having an incredibly cool final castle before the fight, or having an incredibly cool final fight itself. DS had the incredible castle, and Wii had the incredible boss fight. But what about this game? What did it have? How about both? Now the castle itself starts off relatively normal. Some fire to avoid, snake blocks to ride. It's pretty alright considering this game's track record with level design in the main game. However, all of that changes once you hit this checkpoint. The Koopalings fly out in the backdrop of the stage in a giant Koopa car, and you're just sitting there like, yeah, what the hell are they gonna do back there? Goofy little Koopa troop. Oh, okay. While not as cool as DS's stage flip mechanic, this holds a close second for coolest gimmick in 2D Mario Bowser's castles. I love how you have to strategically plan when you're going to make a run for it, and how sometimes you have to balance on moving conveyor belts so you can be safe from the flash. I'm so glad they went with an original idea here for this castle because it makes it so much more memorable. And while it's not particularly too hard, this isn't the last we'll see of this mechanic. Onto the Bowser fight itself, the first phase starts off just like any other. A classic face-off between Mario and Bowser, where all you gotta do is run under him when he jumps, hit the switch, and send him into the lava. But where we had a giant Bowser chase Mario down a long hallway until you drained the lava and pretty much killed Bowser, New Super Mario Bros. 2 flips that idea on its head. No, literally, flips that idea. Instead of running away from Bowser horizontally, now you're running away from him vertically. Scaling all the way up to the very top of the castle while lava rises and Bowser claws at you. It's a really cool idea. You have to strategically trick Bowser into striking at your platform after you've already abandoned it. Along with that, once you're near the top, you have to avoid the metal Bowser heads that shoot fireballs at you until you're able to hit that giant button and send Bowser all the way down into the depths of Kamek's basement. It makes for a very fun and memorable fight. The only downside really being the reused music from Wii's final Bowser fight. But that's not the end of this game. After watching the credits and loading back into your save file, a new world will be available on the bottom screen. World Star. For the small price of 90 star coins, you get access to some of the best levels in the game, with some of my favorites being Star-Dash 3 and Star-Dash 6. Star-Dash 3 is this stage that has this cool haunted beach setting and is filled with womps and ghosts to avoid. I mean, why couldn't we have a level like this in the main beach world? World Star 6 takes place in this abandoned underwater castle that doesn't even have a boss. It's just a regular stage based in an old castle where you have to avoid a bunch of fish bones. I love the aesthetic of this stage. However, once you complete every level here, you unlock a real castle level, the actual final Bowser level. This level brings back the Koopalings in the clown car, however this time fully makes use of its potential, forcing the player to be even more careful with how they approach the level. At some points, you even have to correctly time a jump in order to be behind a part of the wall so you don't die to the flash. It's incredibly difficult and perfect for a true final level. After getting through that section though, you aren't completely finished with the level. Although you send Bowser's scrawny Koopa ass to rotten Kamek's basement, you haven't fully defeated him. Say hello to Bone Bowser. The entire fight is just like how it was in World 6, however this time much harder. Even the classic face-off with him is even more difficult, with Dry Bowser throwing his bones at you. I was actually caught off guard when I went back to record footage for this game and really suffered the consequences of Bowser's bones. The actual big Dry Bowser fight is much harder than the regular one, with the metal Bowser heads appearing much earlier and Dry Bowser being much quicker to strike at you. It's an equally fun and difficult remix fight, and I loved playing through it. New Super Mario Bros. 2 is a pretty mixed bag for me. I love its vibrant levels, replayability, and coin collecting gimmick, but I don't love the fact that a lot of its main levels are uninspired, short, and reuse ideas and music from other Mario games. I love its mushroom and flower worlds and how they don't care about choosing a specific world theme and just go with something creative, but I don't love how all the other worlds are just themes we've seen before. Sure, the combination of World 3 into Beach and Jungle is cool, but they only did that because they couldn't give each theme its own world. I love the Bowser fight and the Koopalings chase leading up to it, but the Koopalings themselves had some of the lamest fights they've ever had in 2D Mario. There's a lot to love about this game, but also a lot not to love. Every time I go back to this game, I always come out of it differently, sometimes loving it and sometimes hating it. But after playing through it again for this video and thoroughly analyzing everything about it, I've gained a little bit more of an appreciation for it. I don't think it's an amazing game, but I also don't hate it. And so to finally answer the question I posed at the beginning of this video, is New Super Mario Bros. 2 bad? No. It's actually pretty good.